Leo, welcome to your reading for the new year. Let's get started and see what messages we have for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising positions for the year ahead. Oh, the cards are dancing all over the place. Now, keep in mind, my friends, that these are general readings and may not resonate for everyone. So make sure to check out your other placements, because you could have messages there as well, which will allow a more full picture. Okay, my friends, let's get started for Leo. What is the energy around the new year for Leo? Sun, Moon, and Rising. Energy around the new year for Leo. Ooh. Okay. Autumn is coming out for you as well. That came out for... Oh, and so did Stuck. Isn't that interesting? I love seeing those connections between the signs. So I just read for Aries, and Aries got Stuck and Autumn as well. Interesting. Okay, you, my dear Leo, are moving into a time of balance here, where something that is stuck is going to come into balance. And it's interesting. It's like you're being guided not to have too much of this polarized energy where you label things as good or bad, light or dark. You know, this is good for me, this is bad for me. That action was good, this action is bad. And judging things constantly, you know, and we do that. We tend to do that without even thinking about it, don't we? Where we don't just take the energy of an experience, we have to label it. We're funny that way as human beings. We label things, and then we feel the emotional intensity based upon the label that we've given something. And so seeing this non-duality card carries that kind of message where it's like, don't label things. Don't judge things. Take things for what they are without having to assign a label to them, because I feel like that is creating a bit of a stuck energy for you. We see stuck on the bottom of the card here, or bottom of the deck, excuse me, which says to me something's not moving, something is stuck, something is stagnating the way that it is. And so it's interesting. And then you've also got this balance card here, which is a very interesting message to sort of see next to that duality, that idea of not labeling things, coming in with this card here of balance. This sort of suggests that sort of all parts of your experience are in balance and they're in equilibrium with one another. It's interesting. Notice the two shapes on these cards, sort of directing you into this sacred geometry, which is interesting, Leo. I wonder if that is something that we're also receiving for you in this reading, is this idea of pointing you into sacred geometry. This balance card is the idea here that in your day-to-day, there are so many things that demand your attention, you know. And when you look at an experience, and again, you label it as being a stressful experience, that can sort of bring about this energy that comes with the idea of labeling something as stressful, you know, or if you look at something and label it as this card really wants you to think about the power of intention. You know, it's interesting. Sort of looking at things intentionally in a certain way. And it's an interesting sort of thing that shifts your energy. The process of intention and your energy, it can shift. They are related to each other. So the question this card sort of brings to mind is, how are you bringing into balance, and where's your intention when it comes to balancing the needs of others and your own needs? How are you balancing that? And then further to that, with this card, how are you labeling it? You know what I mean? Like, how are you bringing those things into balance, and how are you labeling things? Because let's say you're trying to balance things between the needs of others and your needs, and you label that as a sacrifice, and you label that as something that ends up triggering resentment, then the energy around that will feel stuck. You'll feel stuck. You'll feel like, well, I'm constantly doing things for others, and what about me? And I'm not giving myself enough attention. So that's just one example, you know? So the power of intention is very strong here in this balance card. And, you know, it's interesting because you might start to say things like, well, what about me? What about my needs? And I need to focus on myself. And you do. You need to find balance so that you're not just focusing on the needs of others, but you're also focusing on yourself and bringing balance to all of the areas in your life in that way, with this intention of sort of not needing to prove your worthiness by overdoing acts of service for others. For example, what's the intention behind your actions? Is it because you're labeling things as being good or bad and you want to be good? So being good means the following. You know, it's an interesting question, Leo. It's a very interesting question. And I feel like that's the focus for you this year right now, is to find balance there and to understand your intention. And to see if you're actually sort of labeling things in a certain way, because whatever you believe kind of does really become your reality. Like if you believe, when you ask yourself, why do I give so much of myself to this area that involves someone else? If your answer comes back as, well, I do that because I want to be a good person and it's good to serve others and I want to be good. That's interesting. That's an interesting answer, because then perhaps you don't, what would happen if you didn't label things? What if you didn't label things as good, bad, light, dark, spiritual, evil, abundance, lack? What if you stayed away from all of those labels and you just sort of mindfully wanted to stay in the present moment to see, why do you actually want to do this? Maybe you'll come back to yourself and say, I don't want to do this. I want to focus over here. I don't want to focus over here. And if I wasn't labeling things as good or bad, then maybe I would focus where I want to focus. It's very interesting food for thought. I feel like you're sort of stuck in a loop that needs balance. And the question why is important when we get to this card. Now, you also got this autumn card that I haven't talked about at all yet. But what happens in the autumn? We collect our harvest in the autumn, right? All those seeds that you've planted from knowledge, from experience, from energy, sort of vibrations, all those seeds you've planted will bloom and you will collect a harvest in the autumn. And so metaphorically, what does that mean? That means to me that any sort of worries or judgments that you have labeled onto certain situations, you're going to start to see things growing, because whatever you put your focus on expands. So if you've been busy labeling things as bad, and I'm worried, and there's fear here, and I don't feel worthy here, those things will start to grow and take root. And so it's interesting, very interesting. The power of intention seems to be the focus of your reading. The Aries reading was a little bit different, but a lot of the same sort of messages with these cards, in that whatever feels stuck now, you can transform, but you transform it through the power of your intention. And your intention, you're being guided here to really be in the present moment as you formulate that intention, so that it's not grounded in something that is wounded or something that is from a label that you're sort of wanting to fit into a certain category in your mind. Very interesting beginning to your reading, Leo. Let's pull out the tarot cards and see if we can understand this a little bit more. But it really feels like the idea of sacred geometry might be there to focus you. If you've ever explored drawing sacred geometry or understanding sacred geometry, it can be very expansive, and it can really show you a lot of truth behind certain relationships, to see the balance, and that really the judgments that we put on things are that is a reflection of ourselves, not of the matter at hand necessarily, because depending on your intention and your experience, two people could look at the same experience and label it differently, right? So it all is a reflection of what's within, and that's what the sacred geometry shows you so much as well. Interesting. Okay, and there's the 3 of Pentacles. More circles for you. This is a very interesting, and there's the 5. Yeah, you're going to turn things around here. And there's the Knight of Swords, who was also in the Aries reading, and so is that 5 of Pentacles. So many synchronicities here for the fire signs, really doing some deep clearing and healing over 2023. I think you're building new foundations here because you want to turn things around. You don't want to feel stuck anymore. And I think you're starting to see that, please don't take this wrong, but that this is for all of us, that if we feel stuck, it's a signal that something within is stagnant or stuck. Whenever we experience in the external is reflecting back to us something that we believe on the internal. The idea of that autumn card, remember that idea of that autumn card is whatever you believe, or sorry, not the autumn card, the duality card. Whatever you believe will be reflected back at you. You know what I mean? Like it's and even in the balance card, it's true. It's this idea of your intention really paints that picture for you of what's happening. Whatever you believe will become your reality. It's very interesting. It'll just be the way you label things and certain situations. Those labels elicit emotions, and those emotions have an intensity, and that emotional intensity triggers your nervous system, and then suddenly that's how you see things. And I feel like you're being taken on a journey here in 2023 to re-look at all of that, to look at a foundation here in the 3 of Pentacles. It's interesting. It's sort of this idea of re-establishing a foundation, one that serves you and one that is in alignment with this idea of taking things in the present moment and looking at them from that perspective. And sort of there's this idea of teamwork here too, conscious teamwork, almost like a conscious collaboration where you decide that you want to work with certain people, certain experiences. You want to work as a team with this energy. So that tells me that you could be coming into some helpful relationships here, and to connect those helpful relationships with your experience, because I feel like you're about to you're turning things around. It's interesting. In the Capricorn reading, it felt like all of 2022 was the turning around, and I made this analogy of a boat that's moving in one direction, and then it decides, no, I've been going in the wrong direction, or I'm not going in the direction that serves me. So in order to turn that boat around, it may feel like the boat's actually not moving. If you were on the boat, you'd be like, man, oh man, when are we going to finish turning around? This is taking forever. But it's like once the boat actually turns around and heads in the new direction, you start to sense the speed and velocity again. Whereas while it was turning, it felt like you were standing still, stuck. And so I feel like now this is your year to turn the boat around. And it almost feels like by the time you get to fall, so like August, September, October kind of energy, that you'll start to feel that forward momentum again. But for now, it's almost like you're on the boat and it's turning. The boat is turning right now in your life. And it's interesting because there's the Wheel of Fortune on the bottom of the deck. So I feel like as the wheel is turning, you may feel like you're standing still, but actually you're changing directions. And changing directions is a powerful moment in our lives where, and we go through lots of moments where we change directions, but this seems to be a pivotal moment for you of changing directions and changing intentions. Like as you shift your direction, you're being guided to consider shifting your intentions. This is very interesting. Or perhaps it's the shift of direction that's changing your intentions, because you're getting a different perspective. As the boat shifts, you're seeing a different side of the view. You know, your perspective is changed. It's very interesting. Let's see here. Why is the Three of Pentacles here? There's the Moon and the Four of Cups. So yeah, it's got an emotional intensity to it. You might be feeling like things are really stuck and you're fearful of what's to come. Again, this fear that we see in the Moon card, this anxiety, comes from not being able to see the whole picture yet. You know, and all you sense right now is the boat moving, right? You sense that the boat's turning, but you have no idea where it's going. You know, you can almost sort of take that analogy even a bit further. If you were on the boat and, you know, you could feel it moving, and then all of a sudden you feel it stop. And you're like, what's going on? Why did the boat stop? And then you sort of sense the mechanics and the direction that the boat is in the same spot, but it's turning. And you might, as a passenger on this boat, not really realize, well, what's happening? And so it could evoke a bit of fear. And you might even think that you've missed out on something here. You might even feel like, again, that your intention needs to change, because so as long as your intention is focused on these three cups of the past, you'll miss that fourth cup in this Four of Cups. And so it feels, Leo, like your intention is really important here, and the emotional intensity of this experience is intense. You know, it feels like it's transformative. Look what's on the bottom of the deck, the Death card. So you're moving in a new direction. You're in the 2023 represents to you that transition, that transformation, the boat changing direction into a new place. And that's really going to shift things for you. Yeah. There's the Three of Wands landing on that Five of Pentacles. So you might not know where this is taking you. You just know that it needs to shift. And sometimes we just need to trust that much to say, I know that things need to shift, and I'm going to surrender to that shift. And I'm going to start envisioning something that seems like what my highest good would feel like. Not where, not how, but what? What does it feel like? Why and what? What's your intention, right? And why is it motivating? What does it feel like? It's very interesting questions, and to put that mind at rest. Putting the mind at rest is really going to serve you too. And now the Tower is on the bottom of the deck. So this is a big shift for you. The Tower landed on the bottom of the deck for Aries as well. It's also a time to recover. Like as you put your mind at rest, it's also a time to sort of recover. It feels like recovery is going to be necessary here to sort of allow this to get unstuck, you know? It's interesting. You've got like 3s and 4s and 5s here. It makes me feel like you're really getting to that point where things are going to shift. Things are going to tip. You know what I mean? Like you're at the middle. You're in the middle of this journey and you're shifting directions, and I feel like it's a tipping point for you. Things feel like they're really going to tip. And seeing the Wheel of Fortune tells me that you're moving where you need to be. You're moving exactly where you need to be going. You know, like you're at the right time, the right place. Things are exactly how they need to be for this transition to occur. And it's really about intention and direction, you know, intention and direction, and allowing that to happen. Okay, I've been pulling one oracle card from this deck for each sign. So let's see what the guidance will be for you, Leo. Spirit Bear, 396. Yeah, you're exiting the winter, the spiritual winter, where you've you know, almost been sort of doing this big evaluation you're moving out of a space of sort of hibernation and into a space of shift. Like you're about to experience some big changes here. Now, the things that are going to get released here are the things that are taking your personal power, the things that remove your confidence, your happiness, your worthiness. No matter how unlikely it may seem, it's like you're going to emerge from this experience free and clear and free of things that have been needing to be freed up. It says here, you are being healed from guilt and fear. Guilt and fear. And we see that, like, that is present here. Guilt and fear are these emotions that are sort of stealing your personal power and dissuading you from confidence and happiness. And so it's almost like you're in the exact right time to be liberated and to be healed. And it's emerging much closer than you may realize. And it's manifesting. You're turning the boat around. That is what 2023 represents for you, Leo. It's the boat turning. This 3696 frequency that is referred to in this card kind of brings in this idea of reconciling any kind of duality, right? Reconciling that duality so that there's a clear path for you, so that you're not looking at things as feeling good or bad, or happy or unhappy, or angry or rebellious, or, you know, like you're not labeling things like you used to. It's like you're sitting in the present moment, taking in the experience, and instead of labeling it, it's like you're asking yourself, what does this experience teach me about myself? And what does my response to this experience teach me about myself? What is my response of this? Like how I react to something, the label I give something. What does that teach me about my intention? What does that teach me about where I need to surrender and let go and trust? You know, it's interesting. This is a very interesting time for you. It's almost like you're opening to life, and the path becomes more accessible and direct the more you open up to it instead of immediately labeling it. Like, you know, it's interesting when we connect to our authentic path. Sometimes this feeling comes up where we access this spiritual support, maybe even for the first time, like you're consciously accessing this spiritual support, and suddenly the guidance arises within you to be like, this is for me, this isn't for me. This is a yes, this is a no, this is a not right now, this is a go for it, you know, and sort of once you sense that guidance clearly, you stop fighting against it and you let go, and your defense mechanisms fall. You know, you're suddenly not as defensive and guarded, and you're not disabled by fear or guilt. And instead, you sort of feel this idea that you can genuinely access what you want and need without fear and guilt. And you realize that you're worthy of love just as you are, and that you are a creation of love in essence, right? And this frequency of 396 can really help to ground you. You might want to find some frequency music. You can see a lot of that on YouTube. If you just search 396, you'll find lots of things. You might want to try meditating to that frequency to see what that happens, right? And how it changes your sort of mindset and your perspective and your energy, your nervous system. How does it impact your nervous system? Because the emotional intensity and that nervous system, they're connected. You feel it in your gut, and it tells your brain, okay, this is terrifying. So release all of the neurotransmitters that we release when we're afraid. Okay, no, this is a bad situation. Okay, release all of that. And then the nervous system gets triggered, right? So it's very interesting messages that you're receiving in this reading for this year, Leo. Now, to close this reading, I've been pulling another final guidance message from this deck. It's a huge deck, so it's very hard to shuffle. So let's shuffle it a little bit, and we'll pull your card from this deck as well. I love that bear symbol for you. I think that speaks to the courage and the empowerment and the overcoming of any obstacle, even these ones that feel really stuck. Okay, healing. This is the same card that Aries got. You might have Aries in your chart. You might want to watch that reading or as well. Very interesting. Healing. Be gentle with yourself. Balance the lower chakras, which is the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus. So that's your personal power, your confidence center, your emotional center, and your sense of grounding and security. You are worthy of love. Yes, worthiness of this love. Worthiness feels like something that's going to need your attention here. Practice self-care and know that you are enough. This is a year of your intentions and this idea of releasing that stuck energy through your intentions. It's healing you through shifting and bringing awareness to that intention. And it really feels like you're making a turnaround this year. As you shift your intentions, the direction is changing. Very interesting reading for you. Leo, I am sending you so much love and light and wishing you a very prosperous and happy new year. I look forward to reading for you again soon, and I thank you for being present for this reading. Take care, my friends.